We're going to take you back to Groblersdal now, where two of the four South Africans who died in Mozambique have been buried. Our reporter Malungelo Booi watching the story this hour. Malungelo, what can you tell us about the service today?
That's right, Mmatholo. In fact, we've moved from the local sports field to the cemetery. This is where now Lesego, Matsepe and Mmatholo, Mogafe will finally be laid to rest. Earlier, we've heard from their friends and also the premier of this province. Perhaps let's begin with one of their friends who was also who went to Mozambique with them. What he told us, in fact, that Vincent, he said that they left Groblersdal on the 12th of January, headed to Mozambique to celebrate a birthday of one of their friends. Throughout the journey to Mozambique, everyone was happy. On the 14th of January, on the day of this tragedy, he told the mourners that everybody there woke up and they were excited, and in fact they took a boat and went to see the island. At the island they began to interact with people and immersing themselves really in the culture, and from there they moved to another island, the Portuguese island, where this tragedy happened. From there, he says, actually one of the people that is being buried here today, before boarding that boat, Lesego had asked all of her friends there to pray because she was afraid, and of course as friends they prayed and they proceeded really to board this boat, and that's when they started, some of them started to swim, and then that's when some of them were overpowered by those waves and they drowned. And of course he was very emotional, Mmatholo, saying that he has lost his friends. In fact, we've also heard from another lady who was also part of the eight friends that went to Mozambique. In fact, she was very emotional, saying that she was very sorry that she wasn't able to save her friends. We've also heard from the premier of this province, Stanley Matabata. In fact, he said he was at the scene of that incident when it happened, when they were alerted by the families about this particular incident. He has in fact appealed to authorities in Mozambique to do something about what's happening at the Portuguese island, saying that something has to be done. He said in the past 10 years he could recall about 20 people have died at the Portuguese island, and saying that some of those people have actually never been found, their families have never actually got a chance to have that closure. In fact, he was saying that Mozambican authorities have to put up signs warning the people, the tourists that go into that island about its dangers. Mmatholo?
And Malungelo, in terms of the cooperation between the South African authorities and the Mozambicans, what more are we learning about the conversations that are taking place as we try to determine what exactly happened in those hours before this group of young people drowned?
Well, what we know is that at the time of this incident, Mmatholo, not only did South African authorities here in Limpopo rush to Mozambique, we've also heard that they've also been interacting and working with some of the officials in Mozambique. Bear in mind, Mmatholo, these the South Africans cannot do anything in that particular country without getting a permission or without working with officials from that country. So there was that cooperation. But earlier, though, I could say when this incident happened, the family was actually quite angry at the response they were getting from the South African authorities. But when I was talking to Bongane Diago, saying that, well, that was actually not about being angry. It was a plea for help. And ultimately, everything panned out well because these South Africans were repatriated last week. And finally, their are being buried today. And the family had said that they're very grateful that at least Thembekile, their bodies were recovered, because the stories that we are hearing is that where this incident happened, the likelihood of people or bodies being recovered are actually quite slim. In fact, the Premier had said that the chances of these young South Africans having their bodies being recovered there were quite slim, and they're actually quite grateful that they're having an opportunity to bury these young South Africans who died abroad.
Malungelo Booi in Groblersdal for us today.